Nuovo Olimpo plot summary. Nuovo Olimpo is a tragic story of love at first sight between a medical student, Pietro, and an aspiring director and film student, Enea. The film starts with a set of movie films where Enea works as a part-time director trainee. How do Enea and Pietro meet? After the end of the shoot, fans and reporters swarm around Enea, asking about the movie, and among them is the sexiest man Enea has ever seen. Their eyes meet and linger, looking at each other before Pietro walks away. Later, Pietro walks into Nuovo Olimpo, a place that doubles as a cinema hall and a classic meeting place for gay men. Pietro looks undecided and out of place as he walks in. He coincidentally sits behind Enea, who overhears Pietro turning down another man flirting with him. Enea walks out to the smoking hall/gay hookup hall, and Pietro follows. After a brief talk, Enea walks into one of the washroom stalls and invites Pietro in. Pietro walks in but doesn't agree to have the hookup in the stall like everyone else in there. Enea notes that Pietro is turned on, but Pietro insists that he likes Enea too much to have their first intimate session in a hookup stall. They agree to meet the next day at Nuovo Olimpo. That night, Enea can't get Pietro out of his head and plans a place to meet the following day. Pietro and Enea meet up again at the cinema hall. Enea has a place in mind for them to meet. He gives Pietro a map to ensure time and space do not get in the way as he goes to the university to get the keys from his friend. They instantly fall in love with the house. Pietro is still hesitant when Enea tries to kiss him on the terrace. Enea realizes it is Pietro's first time, and he suggests they have some pizza instead. Pietro lets go of the inhibitions in his mind and kisses Enea. Their first kiss feels magical for both of them. After, the two men unite in a day and night of passion. They can't get enough of each other, exploring every inch until the next morning. They talk and get to know each other, in the midst of meal and drink breaks. The following day, Enea drives them to the scene of their first meeting and mentions it's a site where two people meet and fall in love. The two lovers wear their feelings for each other on their faces. Pietro has to go to the hospital while Enea has to go to work. Pietro turns down Enea's offer to drive him to the bus station, choosing to walk. They are planning to meet later at Nuovo Olimpo. Pietro arrives first, and Enea is later followed by Alice, who is trying to get Enea to join a protest, but he refuses and chooses to meet with Pietro. Pietro has to rush to the hospital to check on his mother, but he has made a reservation for them at a hotel. He wants to have a meal and drink wine like a normal couple. Enea offers to go with him to the hospital, but Pietro says he does not want to let Enea wait outside. They agree to meet at the restaurant 1 hour later. Why do Enea and Pietro separate? The protest gets out of hand, and police chase protesters into Nuovo Olimpo. Enea decides to rush into the crowd to go after Pietro, but the police get in his way. He runs in the opposite direction and makes it to the restaurant they agreed to but finds it locked. Elsewhere, Pietro tries to run through the riots to get to Enea but gets into a car accident. We learn later that Pietro got into a severe accident and broke his arm. However, after he was discharged from the hospital, he went to Nuovo Olimpo several times to look for Enea, and one day, he left him a letter with his phone number. On the other hand, Enea never went back to the cinema hall again and lost contact with his old friends, including Titty. Therefore, Titty never got the chance to give Enea Pietro's letter until years later. How were Enea and Pietro's lives apart? While Pietro becomes a renowned surgeon and marries Guelai, Enea becomes a successful director and the first out-of-the-closet filmmaker with his partner, Antonio. Although they are both successful in their careers, their love lives seem unhappy, but their partners stick with them despite the realization that a part of their hearts belongs to someone else, and they have no idea about that person. One of the films that Enea makes is about the unfinished love story between him and Pietro, which becomes a massive hit, getting banned and unbanned for the explicit sex scenes. Pietro watches it in a cinema with his wife and friends, which makes his wife suspect something from his reaction afterwards. Pietro does not reveal the secrets deep in his heart, but he starts feeling uneasy until he goes looking for Enea at Nuovo Olimpo. The place has been under new management since about 15 years after their first meeting. Pietro runs into Molotov, but he has no information about Enea. Longing to reach others is shown in flashbacks and familiar situations, like when watching that classic movie they saw at Nuovo Olimpo on the day of the riots. The sadness is evident in their eyes, and they both start to shed tears. How do Enea and Pietro meet again? 37 years later, an accident happens at Enea's movie set when a prop falls, and glass specks enter his eyes. He is rushed to the hospital, and Pietro is his surgeon. During recovery, with his eyes still in blindfolds, Enea says that the doctor's voice sounds familiar, but Pietro does not disclose any information. Enea insists that the doctor visits him at his house after discharge. Pietro says he might if he finds time, but he does not. Enea calls him one day, insists, and sends Pietro the address. Pietro is so surprised as he walks into the house and finds Enea on the terrace that holds so many memories for him. Enea tells him that he has to fight to get the house since it is so important to him. Enea also mentions someone important to him with whom he lost contact, whose name is Pietro. Pietro does not react. After Enea heals, he calls Pietro, asking them to get together since he can't get over the feeling of familiarity. He could not get any pictures of the doctor online. Pietro's wife picks up, and while Pietro wants to turn the dinner invitation down, his wife invites Enea to their home for dinner the following Saturday. Enea arrives without Antonio, who has to visit his parents. Their meeting during dinner has no grand profession, but the glances and the passion they wear on their faces, like the first day they meet, are evident with secret glances during dinner. Enea confirms her suspicion when he talks about the movies ending about them and Pietro. He learned years later that the person in the film got into an accident during a riot in Rome and hurt his hand, but it is not in the movie since he found out years later. After sending Enea off, she asks Pietro to follow. Guelai admits she has always wished Pietro could look at him like he looked at Enea during dinner. How does Nuovo Olimpo end? Pietro goes after Enea but only asks that he thinks of him occasionally. They say goodbye to each other, and Enea returns to his life while Pietro returns to his house. Pietro stands and looks back, hoping Enea will return, but he does not. Nuovo Olimpo ends in a scene suggesting what could have been if Pietro and Enea had met at the restaurant as they had agreed. They sit at the restaurant near a window, sharing a happy meal, chatting, and laughing together.